I think it's interesting how your journey, like so many women, went from a traditional masculine job role and that type of structure and into something that was more of your real heart's calling. Tell us about how the structure is different, because the masculine kind of is the structure. So how
Yeah.
is like your work more in the feminine flow, and that whole switch? I mean, it must have been hard for you to even switch, right?
Oh yeah. It was and this is an active inquiry for me. So I think like my answer around this is like evolving and showing up. But for the first a year or two after I sold my company, it was very, very difficult process to it was akin to I've never been divorced, but I would imagine it was similar to that. Um I had worked with certain people since the outset of the company. And so, I was just because I was having this awakening doesn't mean anybody else was. And so I think this announcement for me was that this was felt sudden and unexpected. And
Mhm.
so it was really, and then you get lawyers involved, and it was just a really, really painful process. So I needed to recover from that. But I also needed to recover from this loss of identity because I had identified with being a successful businesswoman. That's who I was.
Yeah.
I went out there and I got shit done. I identified with that so deeply. And I also was into, business development was a big part of my job. Like I was the rainmaker. I was the one that brought the new clients on. I formed those connections. And I formed those connections largely by erasing myself and doing what you do in a client service kind of role, which is you are important. You tell me all about you. You don't need to know
Hmm.
anything about me, but let me, give everything to you. And so when I left that job, there were very few of those connections that remained. So I also, right, because they didn't know me, like what was there to connect to? So I also had to come to terms with this identity, with the fact that I had spent years cultivating relationships that were essentially, I don't want to
Over.
insult anybody, but
Yeah.
not meaningful to my soul. And so I kind of just fell apart for a little while. And
Yeah.
I had to
Mhm.
work really hard to give myself permission to fall apart. I found myself, within days of the sale being closed, trying to sit down and plan out what my next thing was going to be. And unfortunately, I just opened up that voice of the feminine in me. And she just kept being like, nope, nope, put your pen down. Nope. You're going to sit here and you're going to cry, is what you're going to do. And then you're going to go for a long walk in the woods. And then you're going to come home and you're going to make dinner for your kids. That's what you're going to do. And it was hard, really, really hard.
Yeah. It's a whole different way of being,
It's
not
a
only
whole,
thinking, but being, like, just, yeah.
yeah. And there was one morning, I don't remember how long after the sale had closed, where I was thinking about doing a yoga teacher training program. And I wasn't sure about that, but I thought this might be good for me to deepen into something. And I woke up one morning with this very clear message in my head. It was super clear. You can make any decisions you want, but know that everything is changing in 7 months. 7 months. I was like, wow,
Wow.
well, that's weird. That's specific, but okay. All right. So I wrote it down in my journal, and then I went on and I did my thing, and I, did more of my healing work. And I did do this yoga teacher training program. Um, but I didn't make any plans towards like an output or a business or anything like that. And then one morning I woke up again and I had this idea for a book. And it seemed a bit absurd to write a book because I still barely knew anything about the divine feminine. I'm like, I can't tell people about this yet. I'm not there yet. But all these ideas were coming in. It was like structure and things that I should do. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to write this down. So I grab my journal. It falls open to the page where I had written down that 7 month message, 7 months to the day, to the day.
You are tapped in, my friend.
I don't even know.
Wow.
Yeah.
Boy, I
So
wish that would happen to me.
well, but here's the
It's
problem with
clear.
that happening. And this is
Oh,
kind of the challenge. I think the dance of the feminine and the masculine is it doesn't always happen, right? Like,
oh, yeah.
right. I
Mhm.
wish I got messages like that all the time. It would make things
Sure.
so much easier. So,
Yeah. But
I
that's
think
the whole point, the trust and the
yeah,
waiting and the patience. And that's all the feminine is, not knowing, the uncertainty, allowing, and it's, yeah,
yes,
that's the whole deal. That is it, you know?
yes. And faith that it's going to show up.
Yes.
And so
Hmm.
the reason I say it's an
Surrender.
ongoing, yeah, an ongoing inquiry is that I'm still working with it. I just still keep deepening into it. I know that I have
Hmm.
this really well-developed masculine side. I love to work. Love
Hmm.
it. I can
Me
get
too.
really out of balance very quickly. And I have an active mind. I love ideas. I like to, bring things into fruition. So I can really get out of sync quickly there. So it's an it's an active practice for me to listen for the intuition. And if the intuition isn't coming, then to, I don't want to use the word force, but really encourage myself to slow down. Um, I have started a practice of every day. I need to go and sit in the woods every day and do nothing and do
I love
nothing.
it.
And I
That's
don't time
great.
it. I just
Without
go.
your phone.
I don't take my phone.
There you
I
go.
just sit and watch. And what I notice is that, it is a new practice. So we'll see if it continues, but I get quiet and I notice all these wonderful things in the woods. And then almost like there's a period when clarity starts to come, ideas or things that are like, and we could do it this way. And what about this? And that's almost like my cue that I have received the inspiration that I needed.
Mhm.
I breathed with nature. I breathed with the mama earth. And now I can go back to my work and do my thing. So,
I love it. Me, I have
you
a
know,
very similar practice too every morning outside, and it's getting cold up here right now. I'm in Massachusetts, and it's like, it's not really liking that first thing in the morning outside barefoot in the freezing cold grass, but it's just, I've done it every single day for the last 2 years, and some days are shorter than others, but
yeah.
I can't imagine my life without it, because like you, it's really where I usually give source, spirit, life the opportunity to download to me.
Yeah.
Things pop in, and it's like,
Yes.
you just got to give that opportunity. It's a relationship. You can't have a relationship with something you don't spend time with, or someone you don't spend time with, right? So you got to
Yeah.
put that time in, whatever it may be, doing whatever, so that can happen, have the opportunity.
I love the way you just said that. Yeah. And there's so much forcing in our culture. I think like we really
Yeah,
pride
check off the
ourselves.
list. Yeah. Oh, okay. I did my yoga. Check. I did my Tai Chi.
Yeah.
Check. Yes.
Yeah. And we pride ourselves on strong will and like
Hmm.
determination. Those are all our success stories. Is like, I
Hmm.
climbed the mountain,
Yeah.
and so to be like to step back and to trust that it doesn't all have to come from my will, or that
Hmm.
even that there's an easier way to do it, like maybe it could come from
Yes.
your will, but what if you just let like I don't, the universe, that's too generic, but you know what I mean, what
Hmm.
if we just let source and God and our
Hmm.
spirits and ancestors and the spirits of the
Hmm.
land and everybody that wants to support us, what if we just let them support us, and then maybe we don't have to
Hmm.
try so hard and burn
That's
ourselves
it.
out.